Morning.
It's the way Singapore wakes up.
Wake up.
Glenn, Angel, and the Flying Dutchman.
Wake up in the morning feeling like
Kiss 92's Big Show.
Good morning, Singapore. We are back. Part 2 of The Big Show and The Big Show TV. Usually, when we extend The Big Show TV, it means we have a very important guest in the studio.
For very good
only
reason.
because we were having a conversation last night, Nick and myself, and all of a sudden I went like, would you like to come in this morning? So it's a very last minute thing. Nicholas Fang, Director for Security and Global Affairs at the Singapore Institute of International Affairs. He's also, a sportsman, which is why he is our go-to guy. Anything sports, politics, it's Nicholas Fang!
Yes.
Thank you so much for having me.
And you're coming in on such a special date, November the 5th. It's a very important date.
I think tomorrow morning is going to be even more exciting when the results have to come in. But yes, this is it's a consequential day, to put it mildly.
Oh my goodness. And as I told everyone today, I said you are the most qualified to talk about this because you graduated from Oxford with a master's in politics. And so I know if we say, Nick, what do you think of the US presidential elections and how important is this US presidential election? What would you say?
I think I think every presidential election is consequential, obviously, but it is. We always have this cliche, right? That it's the unprecedented, is the most consequential because every time it's a new situation, a new environment. But if you look at what's happening in the world today, with the challenges of wars, in different places, of contestation between major powers, issues of climate change, the economy. It is a time where global leadership potentially is more important than ever. And the US, still holding on to the position as the number one superpower currently, is important when it comes to their leader as well. And I think for a number of reasons, the fact that it's such a close race shows, how finely poised, finely balanced this election is. And the reason why all of us now, even here in Singapore on this show, are talking about this, I think is a representation of how important it is. Beyond the sort of rhetoric, the noise, the drama that has happened so far. I think if you try to think back to just a few months ago, I've probably forgotten more of the drama about this election than I actually remember. The assassination, the alleged assassinations
Twice,
attempts. The fact that the incumbent had to drop out just a few months before the election.
I like how you use the word alleged.
Well, so I mean, I think investigations are still ongoing, but it was very performative. I say so drama. It's like watching a drama series.
Yeah, but everyone writes Trump off. Everyone hates Trump and all that. But why is the US so divided right now?
I think the US, actually, if you look at the issues that they are contesting now, gender, abortion, and income inequality, this stuff that the American people obviously feel very strongly about. It affects people on a very individual basis. But I think one of the reasons why we see a lot of division today is because some candidates are very adept at playing up these emotive issues to their hopeful benefit, riling people up, using language that's inflammatory and just pushing those buttons. We see definitely less talk about policy. There's less debate about what actual things you're going to do. And a lot of personal attacks, some of the stuff that was being said is borderline
thrown around,
encouraging violence. There were jokes in very poor taste. There were racist, misogynistic. So
it's like episodes of the World Wrestling Entertainment.
It's
right?
like grab the popcorn and sit back and watch.
Yeah, and this, while it's entertaining for all of us, it is something that really divides American society. At least at the emotive level, there have been some surveys and polls recently that show that actually there's some alignment between red and blue in the US. But people don't feel that way because of the kind of noise, the kind of drama that happens at rallies, for example. And it's all coming to a peak today, as we speak, as they go to the polls in I think it's less than 24 hours.
Right. Yeah. Okay, let's continue to talk to Nick on The Big Show TV. Meantime, here's Jimin with Closer Than This on Kiss 92.
Which actually, can I
Yeah,
jump in?
sure.
Which actually brings me to my question. As you say, they go to the polls on November 5th in the US, right? But people have already been voting, online and all that. So what exactly happens November 5th in the US?
But how come they're already voting?
They're voting
already?
Because there's
online, I
early
believe.
vote.
Early voting, yeah.
Early voting. It's a lot of people, right? More than 240 million people are due to vote. And I think the number is like 60 something or maybe 70 million.
77 million have already cast their
Cast their
vote.
vote.
Cast their vote,
160 million registered voters.
Yeah. But the tricky thing, as we always say when we look at US elections, is it's so weird that everything hinges on the swing states.
Yeah.
And it potentially, because it's so close in the swing states, it could potentially be a few thousand votes
That
that
change it.
decide the fate of a country of 240 million people. That boggles the mind sometimes.
Which are usually the swing states?
There are 7. I cannot remember.
Pennsylvania
all.
is one of
Pennsylvania is
them?
a big one.
Pennsylvania is viewed as the pivotal one because
Yeah.
they control, I think, 19 electoral votes in Congress. So most pundits will say whoever wins Pennsylvania has a 90% chance of taking the White
Trump
House.
is already saying there's some hanky-panky going on already.
Yes,
But
so
he always says that.
this is his standard playbook.
Yeah.
He will make a great Singaporean because he's very kiasi kiasu. So even when it doesn't look like for sure he's going to lose, he's already preparing the ground to challenge. To not accept the results if they're not in his favor.
Which is quite smart as well, actually.
Yeah. Well, you can say it's smart or it's a tactic that reflects almost kiasu, quite a desperate.
Because of what happened to
Desperate
him
move,
the last time round, he still says he did not lose to Biden.
He says that, of course, right?
Yeah.
Which is the part of the playbook, like I will never admit defeat.
Yeah.
I will, but to the detriment of the society, right? When people march on the Capitol and people die, I think that's not.
Of course.
It's not gracious
That
at
was
all.
so ridiculous.
But it's not safe or secure. So he seems to have learned from his first term. So the reports are that his lawyers have already filed preemptive lawsuits to challenge the outcome of the election.
Let's
that
do
hasn't
it
even
first.
happened
Let's
yet.
do it
Yeah.
first.
Yeah.
But it's okay. I think a very important question that I need to ask you, Nick, because many people just see Trump for who he is, right? But I also feel like what you see is what you get. So if he comes, for example, I've told you guys, comes to the studio, you know exactly who this guy is because this is who he is, right?
Yep.
How good for America was the Trump presidency when he was in office?
Well, I think it wasn't as disastrous as most people predicted.
Considering it's
Largely-
during COVID
Correct.
as well.
Yeah, correct. But largely because there is a system
In
around him.
place
There was
already.
buffers, there's advisors, there's Congress, to sort of stop him from just acting like a king, right? Just putting into place edicts and stuff like that. But you said better the devil you know.
Yeah.
Well, what if that devil is someone who makes national policy at 3 a.m. in the morning based on what he sees on Twitter, on X, or on social media? That's pretty scary. And it is an argument I hear that, we know Trump is going to be like this, he's transactional, he favors certain ways of negotiation. If it's a good deal, it's a good deal, I'll take it. So people know the playbook of how to get on his good side, right, to put it nicely, and to get what you want out of the system. But he also says things that he's a climate change denier. He says it's a scam, it's a hoax. And if you look at the science, I think which most of us look at, it does look pretty scary. And the impact of what the US does could tip us into, if we're not already, on the path to
Armageddon.
no redemption for climate change. What happens in the next 4 years could certainly do that. So, I think there's certainly some implications. If he puts into place across the board tariffs, 60% on China, up to 20% on the rest of the world, it's going to cause upheaval in the global economy and for the US economy as well. It sounds like a great political argument, I'm going to protect American whatever, but if you put tariffs on everything and the US cannot supply everything that it needs, it has to buy stuff from overseas, from China. And if things shoot up by 60%, the prices shoot up by 60%, it's going to hit the US economy and the US companies in a very big way. But, he has, in the first term, he said a lot of things. He didn't put in place everything that he said he would. He couldn't in some cases. Some of it is obviously election bluster as well. So fingers crossed, if he does win, he doesn't follow through on all his threats. He does sound very vengeful. He said he's gonna, take revenge, go after all the people who didn't support him and stuff like that. That doesn't sound like.
But he did also say he's going to put an end to the Ukraine-Russian war and the Israel-Middle East conflict. Do you think he will actually be able to do that?
He hasn't given any indication of how he's going to do that. He says,
It's just all talk.
Isn't he friends with Putin?
Yeah, so I think that is the concern for a lot of people when they look at the conflict, and that, in fact, if you look at the way the war has been progressing, you could say that it's almost a slight delay tactic, or maybe not a massive injection of momentum from Russia, because Putin is waiting for his friend to come back.
And also he's friends with Kim Jong-un.
Yeah, exactly.
So who's sending troops into
the Russia.
Ukraine.
Yeah, so this admiration for this strongman type of leaders is a bit concerning. I think there's already some talk about potentially a Trump-Kim summit part 2, potentially in Singapore again.
Oh, at the
If
Capella
Trump
again,
win.
then.
Well, maybe a different
Maybe
hotel
somewhere
this
else.
time. But I mean, we were talking about that, in 2018, right? Yeah. So you guys had great costumes.
Oh my goodness. Has it been?
Yes,
That was
yes.
2018. Wow, that's
2018.
even before.
7 years ago.
I was dressed up as Kim Jong-un and he was
Oh
President Donald
my
Trump.
goodness.
It's hilarious.
Just one quick question before you jump in. If Trump wins, is he able to do 8 years or will it only be 4?
Only 4.
Only
you're
4,
allowed
okay.
at any point in time.
So it
Total
doesn't,
of 8.
Reset
Total of 8.
because he
Doesn't
becomes
reset.
president.
Okay.
Doesn't.
So there's no reset.
Okay.
The question is, that is the devil we know. The other side of the coin is Kamala Harris. Very quiet as vice president. What
Only
are your
had
thoughts?
3 months to
Yeah.
prepare.
Is she
3 months
ready?
to prepare. Is she ready for this?
Yeah, that is a good question. She has been vice president, so she knows how things work in U.S. politics, and she's been involved in the establishment for many years. But I think, not to preempt one of these questions that we had, right, which is what kind of president would she most resemble, or would she be? But she is quite unprecedented as a personality, as a character, to be even contending for the presidency. She's a lady first and foremost, and she's a woman of color. We've never seen that in the White House. So I think in many ways it could be quite, again, to use that very cliched word, unprecedented to see her at the helm. And all eyes will be on what kind of leadership style she'll have, what kind of issues. She has highlighted the issues that she's very focused on. And in that sense, it's almost somebody that you know as well, because many people expect the continuity from the previous Democratic administration under President Biden. A lot of the measures are likely to continue, so there is some expectation, even from other parts of the world, that it'll be a little bit predictable in terms of how she will conduct.
Which is a good thing,
Okay,
right?
we'll go on air and continue to talk about this. Stand by.
Kiss 92 traffic.
A couple of situations to pay attention to. In the CTE tunnel towards the AYE, a vehicle's broken down after the Outram Road exit. Also on the CTE towards the AYE, right after the PIE Changi exit, avoid lane 2. An accident has been reported. And finally, on the TPE towards the PIE, right after the Pongal Road exit, another accident in lane 2. Wherever you are this morning, stay safe.
Good morning and welcome back to The Big Show and The Big Show TV. Our guest for this morning is Nicholas Fang, Director, Security and Global Affairs at the Singapore Institute of International Affairs. He's also a champion fencer, ladies and gentlemen. I think you were involved in quite a number of SEA Games, and your specialty is epi.
The fact that you're doing this off memory is pretty impressive.
Right.
Or it shows that we spend too much time on it.
A little bit of both.
He's also, from Oxford University, in which he graduated with a master's in politics. So, okay, straight into, what we've been talking about once again. If Biden was still president, would Trump win this election more easily? And speaking of Kamala Harris, is she ready to be president?
I mean, I feel we should always respect our elders, right? I don't know why I look at FD when I
Because we were telling him, he reminds us of Biden.
It's okay. It's all right.
terrible.
Sometimes he's sitting there, he's falling off to sleep.
You see?
Hey, you guys start early in the
And
morning.
we've seen him walk downstairs as well.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, this is true.
But yes, I think the sort of noise around Biden's capability or being actually able to contest an election built to such a crescendo that eventually he had no choice, right, but to step down. So I think that in and of itself shows that all calculations taken into account, the view was that he probably would have struggled against a very resurgent Trump at that stage. I think in recent weeks, and the campaign trail is vicious, right? It takes a huge toll on people. But Trump is also looking a little bit tired. There were some interviews
Yeah.
where he sounded very Biden-esque in sort of going on tangents. And then, of course, there was that time at his rally where he decided to stop taking questions and sort of grooving on the stage for almost 40 minutes, just listening to music, and people were looking at what is going on. You know, this is
Yeah.
a rally.
Yeah.
Why
I mean, he did take a bullet to his ear.
yeah,
And that
exactly.
affected something, I'm sure.
His
Yeah.
rhythm, maybe,
Oh.
because of the music and how he dances.
Okay.
Allegedly.
It's like the inner ear, right?
Yeah, but the question about whether Harris is qualified, yes, she's new to potentially the role as president, but she has been vice president, so she would know how the system works, how politics work in the U.S. She's been around the world in her capacity as VP. She's been to Singapore before, so I think there is a certain expectation from stakeholders around the world that what she does will be more of an extension of a Democratic administration under President Biden. But some people have cautioned that may not be Biden 2.0, right? She hopefully will have her own mind. She has her own priorities. But things like, multilateral engagement, support for NATO, we all kind of know that that's probably going to be what we see more of, which is not a bad thing.
I think she's going to be an Obama.
That again was one of the things I was going to say. Some experts have already drawn that comparison, even as much earlier when she first emerged on the political scene before even running for presidency, that she would be another Obama in terms of, first of all, her own personal background, her likely reception in Asia, from this part of the world.
Yeah.
And at the same time, the kind of messaging that she ran on for large parts of the campaign was, and some people say this slightly critically, was it's a very joy campaign. It's talking about hope and it's come together, which is very Obama-esque in the message of hope and unity. But yeah, those are the things that she sort of represents as a person, and it seems to be what she's championing as well.
Yeah, and he's going to be behind her. I mean, Obama is a friend. If there's someone who can guide her along, at least at the start, it would be,
It would be
one
him.
of the best and most loved presidents of the United States of America, President Barack Obama.
Regardless of whether he raps to Eminem.
But,
I would have chosen another rapper.
That's how hard he's trying.
but let's talk about Elon Musk when we go on The Big Show TV.
All right, it's 9:25.
Kiss 92 Time Check brought to you by Poo.
So Elon Musk has given out something like $16 million already. So what do you think about this whole $1 million lucky draw? It was just announced actually an hour ago that he is going to be allowed to keep giving away that $1 million to voters. And apparently the lawyer has admitted that the winners are not chosen randomly.
I really don't know why this is going on or why this is allowed to continue to go
As
on.
Singaporeans especially, right?
Yeah.
We can't understand how this can be allowed.
Although
It's bribery, isn't
we
it?
would appreciate lucky draw. We always appreciate lucky draw,
It's
right?
true.
But you see, the winners are not chosen randomly.
Yeah, so there's so many things wrong with this, and I'm still waiting to see the full facts of how it transpires in the courts. And I certainly hope that some kind of action is taken, because this is political interference, leveraging on money, inducement, so maybe bribery if you want to call it that. He'll say that I just want to encourage people to come out and vote, so that it's representative of more people. But if the winners are not chosen randomly, then what's and it's being
no
funded,
longer a lucky draw, is
it's
it?
being funded by a PAC as well that's in support of Trump, and he's been such a vociferous supporter of Trump that the signals are all there that if you vote for Trump, you got a chance to get this money, right? And that's horrible. That's just horrible, and it subverts democracy. But hey, what about Trump has ever shown that he really campaigns
Plays by the
on
rules.
democratic values and things like that. So so I'm waiting to see how this plays out.
At least
but
he doesn't cheat on the golf course. I mean, he's a very good golfer.
You've played with him before?
I've seen
Right, okay.
highlights, of,
Okay.
of
Maybe
him
just
playing
the
golf.
parts that they want to show you.
how do you know he doesn't
I
cheat?
think. Huh?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Have you
exactly.
seen-
No, I mean, he went out there with Bryson DeChambeau.
You know they only
Bryson's
show-
such a nice guy. I believe Bryson. Even if I don't trust Trump, I trust Bryson.
You know they only show you what they
He's
want
a
to show you,
5
right?
handicap.
Exactly.
Quite possibly the best golfer out of all the presidents.
This is your friend.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure there's hyperbole because
I'm only looking at his golf. I'm not looking at anything else.
Right,
You know what I mean?
okay.
Talk about sports. Okay, if let's say Trump was a fencer and he goes up against Kamala Harris, who do you think will win?
So in fencing, in certain weapon groups, especially not so much épée, but in the other ones, there is a lot of decision based on what the referee sees and how the referee decides to award the point. So there are certain fencing nations that are very famous for protesting everything that doesn't go in their way. This sounds kind of like a Trump playbook, right?
Right.
That if I don't win, then it must be
I'm
be
gonna
the
throw
referee's
my
fault
sword.
and stuff like that. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
have a bit of a tantrum. So but he is a lot bigger. I don't know how strong he is anymore these days. He's not that young as well. But it would be an interesting contest.
She looks a
Big
little bit more,
target.
she looks
Is
a
it-
little bit more agile though, you know what I mean?
Yeah, she's younger.
Yeah.
Got a big target in front of her in the form of
Easier
Trump. So I pronounced it wrongly just now. I said épée. It's
It's
épée.
épée.
Close
Épée.
Close enough.
Okay. Yeah, you want to learn fencing from Nick?
I've invited, by the way, all of you, everybody here to come for.
What's the
Wait
name
a
of
minute.
What's the name of your academy again?
It's Legends Fencing Club.
I would love
Legends
to
Fencing
learn.
Club.
I would love to.
Okay, there she's in.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's a downtown gallery. We do corporate stuff, corporate workshops. So we'll do something for all of you.
Yeah,
FD,
yeah.
you can be the referee if
Yeah,
you like.
Okay.
because I told him, I said, I think better leave you out.
You get a
because
special
lot
outfit and everything.
A lot of lunging, and then you'll say you're back. So I mean, just be there. We can have whiskey as well.
We'll put some food beside
See,
you.
now you're making it sound
Legend.
interesting for me.
There you go.
Yeah, this is-
wine,
this is-
whiskey. The tagline is wine, whiskey, and weapons. What's
Oh.
the worst that
Okay,
can
they'll
happen?
take the weapons. I'll take the wine and whiskey. Thank you very
Right.
much.
There,
sound of
Shalini
that.
and Cheyenne are invited also, right?
Yeah,
Of
we need
course.
6 people to make it fun. So.
I am
There you go.
curious. I love trying new things. Okay, on.
Yes, that's it. I would definitely love
I think
to.
this will be quite fun. Can you get in touch with social media also and ask them to come down and
Yeah,
film this
for
comedy
sure.
session?
Comedies.
Okay.
Who's a comedian?
It'll be quite fun actually.
It will.
Okay,
Getting back to what we're talking. I mean, straight up, who would be a better president for the world?
This is a good question. It pertains a little bit to what we were discussing just now,
Yeah.
right? Devil you know, devil you
You
don't. But if you're talking about the challenges that we're facing around the world already, we talked about the wars, and you have Trump coming up very simplistically saying, "I'll get it done, sorted out, no problem."
Yeah.
But without any clear plan. And in the case of say Ukraine, for example, there's a high chance that he won't end it in a situation where they'll be happy because he wants to cut funding, US funding to the Ukrainian war effort, and as we said, he's a bit of a buddy with Putin as well. He's very much in support of Israel in the Middle East. So what does this mean for the Palestinians, in Gaza? And within this part of the world, there's of course a rising China. And Trump has made it very clear that he wants to, take them on and fight with them in a very adversarial sort of way. So that raises the temperature a little bit for global geopolitics. And again, what we discussed about climate change, it could literally lead to a warmer planet if he, puts into effect all that he promises to do, and with the view that climate change is not real, it's a hoax, it's a scam. So I think some question marks about the potential impact around the world. Some contrarian view is that if Trump decides not to focus so much on Asia and look more domestically, there is the potential that China won't feel the need to be so competitive if their biggest competitor is no longer really that interested in this part of the world. And it then could lower that bit of the temperature in terms of China's assertive moves in the South China Sea or vis-a-vis Taiwan. So that's one possibility. And if you look at Trump's, I'm sorry to go on and on about Trump, but if you look at his tariffs, as we sort of mentioned earlier, that could really impact the global economy, by throwing everything a little bit out of whack. You put an end to multilateralism, you put a brakes on global trade. Will that benefit anybody? Potentially, because China will then look to, as it did in the first Trump presidency, outsourcing some of its activities to countries like Vietnam in a bid to sort of circumvent, tariffs on China if they came in through another way, through Mexico, for example. So a little bit of a mixed bag when it comes to what potentially could happen.
Okay.
But yeah, Harris, I think more predictable. I think we'd probably see something that we are more used to. So just to round it off, I think what we want to see in the leader of the
Let's round it off on air.
Sure.
Okay.
Kiss 92 traffic.
A couple of vehicles have broken down. The first is on the TPE towards the PIE. Right before the KPE exit, vehicles broken down there. And on the BKE towards the PIE, another vehicle having trouble before the Dairy Farm Road exit. Avoid lane 4 there. Let us know if you spot anything. It's 8855509020.
Good morning, Singapore. Back with Nicholas Fang, who was in mid-speech, and then we had to go for a traffic break. But there are people who are watching us and listening to us at the same time. So please carry on where you left off.
Yeah, I think when we were talking, right, about who would be better for the world, potentially for Asia, something that I've been looking at is who would be better for Singapore. I think there's a lot of stuff we could get into, but I think in general, people would like a leader in the US that is a bit more predictable. I think that's one of the key things that we like to see. And when you talk about, a relationship with another country, you would hope that, yes, there should be some politics involved. You need to understand the political environment. But you really want to look at holistic policies, right? And how decisions are made, why they are made, what they're trying to achieve. And then you know how to react to that. But if you go to another P, which is personality, and the way that you interact with the leader of the free world or of the major superpower in the US, if somebody who flips-flops, changes his mind, you can't really track why he makes certain decisions, something he read, something somebody spoke to. We used to hear that over weekends, the White House staff used to dread weekends in the first Trump administration because he would stay in the White House by himself.
Oh.
And that's when, people were most afraid. Like, what is he reading? Which Twitter account is he following? And international leaders sometimes realize that, and they would call him on the weekends
to distract him.
Lobby him.
Oh,
lobby him for that view because he wouldn't be surrounded by his team. And then come Monday, he would have made up his mind about something, and he said, let's just do this, right? Which actually happened a few times. So that kind of unpredictability, I think the world doesn't really like. But, I think one thing we in Singapore should always remember is that as a small country, we are really price takers when it comes to these sort of things. We can state views, we can make our perspectives known, but does it really make a difference in the US? Probably not. And we really just have to get along with whoever is elected and make the best of it for ourselves.
Right. Okay, so I'm going to put you on the spot right now. If you had to choose, right? If you had to vote, so I'm not going to ask you who you think is going to win.
I think I know who he'd
But I'm
vote
just going to
for.
put it this way, right? If you had to vote for Trump or Kamala Harris, who would you vote for?
I'm a very much, sunshine and rainbows guy. I love hope. I love the idea of unity and of working
Predictability.
together. And then, of course, predictability. So, as we look at Harris, she's new. She's going to be a slightly unknown quantity. She's going to be the first woman of color in that position. So we don't really know how it's going to play out. We don't know how the international community is going to react to her. Is China going to test her in the early days of her presidency or whatever? But I like that message a little bit more. I like. I'm not a huge Taylor Swift fan, but okay. I think I'm a big Obama fan, and he's supporting her, so I kind of lean that way. And I much rather see less division, less animosity, and less vitriol in global politics, if possible. And she hasn't shown any indication that she'll be like that. So. We'll see. We'll find out in maybe 24 hours or
Is that
maybe
how soon?
6 months. I don't know.
How quickly will we know?
Well, it depends on how close the result is, whether Trump decides, I should say whether he decides. He's already decided to challenge it if he doesn't win.
Yeah.
And again, touch wood, if social violence, domestic violence breaks out, civil unrest breaks out in the US, then things could take a while to settle down.
Right.
But if it's a clear win, we might know tomorrow.
Ballot boxes get
Funny,
burned.
I'm watching two networks, right? CNN as well as Fox. And both
close to call,
both
right?
networks say it's so close to call,
Yeah.
too
Yeah.
close to call.
Neck to neck, yeah.
Which just goes to show how close it's going to be. But after the votes are out, if it's a clear Trump win, what does that indicate about the U.S.?
It indicates that there's some things that the Democrats definitely have to look at. There's definitely something within the political system that people have to. You have to understand why people gravitate to a character like Trump. We didn't get to talk about the U.S. economy much, but the economy actually is doing very well. It's recovered very well since COVID and under Biden. But people are still not happy. They still say they don't feel the benefits that such
Coming
a
to
strong
them.
economy should be.
Yeah.
So all these things need to be looked at, regardless of who wins, I think.
I see. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Nick, for joining us. Always very enlightening to have you on the show, and I feel smart now.
Dialogue like that. But thank you very much for having me.
The bar has been raised now. and people
Hang out with
enter.
someone from
All
Oxford
lower
all the
than me,
time.
I'm sure.
You feel a bit more intelligent after that.
Thanks for having me on, guys. Thank
As long
you.
as you get the university right, yeah?
Thank you. And we'll see you at Legends Fencing Club.
Awesome. See you guys soon. Thank you.
All right.